Hello, YouTube. Hello, hello. I am sick and tired of trying to take a thumbnail that looks good, so we'll call that done. I'm back this week with a bunch more brushes to do a get ready with me, or you can watch me get ready rather. They're not arranged nicely by height this time, I just kind of stuck them wherever they were visible. So this week it's not just Fude and regular makeup brushes, I'm also going to be using the Clarisonic makeup brush head. So I'm going to be using that with my normal cream foundation. So the brushes I have for you this week are, aside from the Clarisonic makeup brush, is the Koyudo BPO22, the Tanseido EQ28, the Hakuhodo Kokutan eyeshadow brush large, the Chikuhodo T2, the Koyudo Fupa 07, a spoolie, the Eihodo S1, the Bisyodo B-ES-01, the Chiuhodo 10, the Hakuhodo B533, the Koyudo BPO36, and a lash comb as always. And I think, oh, and a Q-tip, because I always need a Q-tip. And I think I'll get started. So I just got out of the shower, dried, dressed, and everything. So I'm going to start with a moisturizer. This is a blurring moisturizer by Clinique, and this is a hydro blur. Been having a spell of really windy, oddly dry, cold wind around here. Like it went from the mid 70s and now it's 50 degrees outside. No, 55 maybe. To me, that's freezing, but to people in other places, that's practically beach weather. But I'm Californian, so that's not beach weather. I have a little pimple patch right here. I'm going to remove now and use one in the Q-tip to clean that up. Oh, that's right. I forgot to set up my mirror. Yes, let's do makeup and not have a mirror. Let me know how that goes for you. Okay. And while I'm giving that moisturizer time to sink in, I'm actually going to switch the brush heads. Whoops. Hands are slippery. Normally it's easier to do with the cap. Instead I just grab it with my hands, like it's much easier to twist on and off of the cap like I actually have on this one. So this one is the Smart, which is why I'm able to use the massaging brush head, and I'm going to use this to help the product sink in and also give it time to do its work on the skin. If I tried to go over it with my foundation right now, it would likely pill and be a little blotchy. So as far as the Clarisonic makeup brush head goes, that one can be used with their lowest end model, the Prima. That one's $99. I highly recommend that one. That's the one I started on, and this video is not sponsored. I wish it was. But if you aren't looking for any of the fancy attachments like this massaging brush head, the Prima is more than enough. It only has one speed, and one speed is all you really need. And then you're able to use it for washing your face. And then there's this orange exfoliating head that I like to use about once a week. And then, of course, the makeup brush head. All of those are compatible with the base lowest end model. This is sort of, I guess, the standard. And then it has a couple more things you can use with it, but I basically upgraded to this one, the Mia Smart, because I wanted to be able to use the massage head. So I do highly recommend the lowest end base model. And also, if you get a lot of tension headaches, The massage is good, but you can do this with literally any other massage tool. I just like having it all in one because I don't have anything else for it. And then what this also does is lymphatic drainage. You can do that manually with your hands, but this just speeds the process up and it's pretty brainless. One more here. I'm not really dragging it. I'm just gliding it over. Okay, call that done. And then wash it with regular soap and water for the massage head. For the makeup brush head, I just use the regular makeup brush soap that I use for everything else. That's the Beauty Blender solid cleanser. And where's my foundation? Here you are. Now foundation is going on. So as usual, Kevin Kwan Sensual Skin Enhancer shade 07. I'm going to start in the center of my face. Spread it around. Warming it up with my finger while I'm doing this. I've had a lot of pigmentation this week because I've been out in the sun a bit more. And also the wind has been affecting things. So what I'm doing every time I go back over the foundation is I'm grabbing more of it to bring over. And the reason why I start in the center of the face is because that's where the most discoloration is, and by the time I drag it out to the edges of the face, there's much less pigment, so then it looks more natural. Because otherwise there'd be a sharp delineation between where my face and my jaw is, and I don't want that. The only downside to this brush, this makeup brush head, I can say is around here, especially, it tickles my nose and makes me want to sneeze. It's not the most pleasant feeling, but I'll live with it. The blending results are pretty effortless. Like if I'm running late and I need to do makeup in a car, and of course someone else is driving, I grab this thing because no matter what, even if the lighting in a car is really crappy, as long as I run this everywhere on my face and I know I've covered all the areas, I can be assured that there will be a seamless blend and no edges whatsoever. So that's why I really like that. It's on a 1 minute timer. 1 minute is really enough to put foundation all over the entire face. So that's good. Okay. And then I have this little blemish here and a couple spots that I'm going to go into a slightly darker color with before I go back over it. Before I go back over it with my regular foundation color. The reason why I'm going over it with a darker color first is because if I go over it right away with my normal color, it'll look a bit ashy, and I don't want that. And then by putting this darker color down first, it facilitates the blending of the normal foundation color over it later. And the brush that I'm using for this is a Koyudo BP036. It's made of Kolinsky. It's this sort of round, tapered, not really pointed shape, but I love this brush. I have 3 of these and I've given at least 5 of them away. The reason why I have 3, I wash my brushes about once every couple weeks, so I go through these and I feel like I always need to have one on hand because it's just that good. I'm using it right now for spot concealer, but because of the shape and the hair type, I can use this for a lot more. If I load this up with lipstick, it makes a really good lip brush because it gets nice and pointy. So if I was to completely saturate this with product, I could pull it into a pencil shape practically. And that makes it really good for tracing out and staying within the confines of the lip. It's also great for on the eye with powder and cream shadows. So this is as multi-purpose a brush as you can get. Why did I close my mirror? Okay. Dumb thing number 3. And then because this was a larger area, I'm going back with the Clarisonic to blend it out a little more. I don't think that dark patch showed up on camera, but it did show up on me. That was a little bit of scratching I did. Bad habit, I know, I pick at my skin. And I'm taking what's left over on my brush and running it under my eye. Canceling that out. On the nose. Yeah, I'm just really discolored this week. Last week was like, whew, nothing. This week, not so lucky. So if you saw last week's video or my other videos, or which are all something like 40 minutes or long, this might be even slightly longer. Okay, so that was, I did it again. BP036. As I said, you can use it for cream eyeshadow, pencil eyeshadow for like very detailed placement, blending of pencil under the eyes, spot concealing as you just saw. And then as you can see, if I get this like really packed in, it turns into a fine point. And that point is really good for doing lip color with. Oh, and that's why I forgot to pick out. Oh well, we'll live. Okay. Setting up my mirror again. Next up, I'm going to use a little bit of cream contour again. This is, I should show you the brush first. Ah. This is the Koyudo Fupa 13. As you can see, it has a very unique trapezoidal shape. I think trapezoid would be the right term for it. It's angled and it comes to a flat up here, but angles down here and it's rounded. So what this does, it allows it to fit into a lot of nooks and crannies. So one of which here is one of them for sure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spread it out with that flat first. And then blend pushing up. And then the hairs on this one are Hakuhodo. They're a goat hair that's lower grade than Saikoho and Sokoho. It's a little more springy as well, so it makes for excellent blending. It's the same hair that's in the Fupa 07, the foundation brush I used last week. This one is kind of like its smaller cousin. You can use this one for cheek highlight as well. Cheek blush, and then highlight as well. Just giving myself a little bit of shape back to my face because everything was flattened by the foundation. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of just sweeping up. Taking what's left over on the brush, evening things out. Take a step back, everything looks good. Okay, I think that's all the product there I need from this. Now just taking all this that's left on the brush and using it to shade under my face and jawline. And especially back here because I like to have it, when I have my hair down, it'll be covered. This place is just stark white, so I'm just coloring it in with whatever's left on the brush. As you can see, it blends much better. Or it blends into my ear much better now. My ear is also slightly more pale and pink, but I'm not doing photo photo shoots or photography, so I am not putting foundation on my ear because that is a pain to wash off. And then this side, the contrast isn't as stark because that's the side that the window is on when I'm driving. So this side of my face is definitely more tan and has a couple more sunspots. Oh well. I do apply sunscreen, but I don't apply it every 2 hours like you're supposed to. And that took most of the residual pigment off really nicely, which means I have less to do when I'm washing my brushes. And then, because there's already so much of it off, I'm going to show you this brush with, oops. Yes, show you with, oops. Show you it with the cream blush. Clean myself off a little bit here. And then I had the powder blush picked off, so picked out, so I'm only going to use a little tiny bit to show you what this brush can do. So same brush, cream blush. I'm using it like this, and I'm just sweeping and pressing. So press with medium pressure and sweep. And then press, sweep, press, sweep. I'm starting with the edge of the color first, like I applied it here. I'm starting with the edge here, and then spreading it around, and then blending. This one. And I'm flipping the brush around because there's pigment distributed on the brush unevenly. So this is to make sure that I get it, well, distribute it and blend it evenly. Okay. Check. No more up here. Okay. Then that's the Fupa 07. Now I have more pigment on the brush, but I'm not going to bother to clean it out my neck. I'm doing this so much because it's actually really fun to do. Okay. Next up, I'm going to set everything with powder and then go over with my powder products. The setting I do is not for longevity. It's more for, how should I put it? Facilitating the product I'm going to apply over it, because everything I've been using is cream. It doesn't have a complete dry down in a way that would make powder going over it not patchy. So what applying powder over it does is it kind of soaks it up a little bit, and it also creates a barrier. And then any powder I apply over it will, or any powder product, color product that I apply over it later will blend easier. I'm using a hydrating powder. This is the La Prairie one. This is a little travel container because the full size is way too big. And then the reason why I dump it in my hand is because it's designed to be used with a puff, but I don't want to swirl my brush in there and mangle up all the hair, so I pour into my hand and then pick it up. So what I'm doing here is I'm just running the brush all over my face until I don't feel like catch anymore. So if I feel like here there's a little bit more drag, so I'm gonna put a little more powder on my brush for that area. I felt a little bit more drag. The brush didn't just glide over, so I know that part is still wet. Now it's gliding. And then this EQ28 by Tansedo is a massive brush. Can definitely be used for bronzer. I just really like using it for powder because it feels heavenly. This is Chikuhodo goat hair. It's quite a loose, fluffy brush. I'm setting the stuff under my neck too. Quite a loose, fluffy brush. Definitely not a necessity. I would say it's pretty on par with squirrel in terms of pleasantness, but of course, squirrel is going to be softer, but this is really, really pleasant for a goat hair brush. I mean, not saying that Chikuhodo is by any means scratchy, but this one, due to the looseness, just imitates squirrel really well. of course, it almost costs as much as a squirrel powder brush. So there's that. Okay. So while I was in the gym today, I noticed everybody else is nice and tan, and I'm standing out stark white in the mirror. So let's tan myself up a little bit. This is one of Bare Mineral trios they released in the past of bronzers. I'm going to be using the Ocean View. This one has a little bit more of a cooler and slightly grayer tone to it than this one over here. And this is my preferred color by a long shot. I don't use very much of it at all. I'm just pressing it a couple times in. And for this one, I'm going to start with the short side, angled down, and just sweep it. So as I covered before, with angled brushes, the longer side will be looser and it'll apply color more sheerly. So because this applies color more strongly, this applies color more sheerly. Like you can see, there's more pigment down here that's been picked up by the density part of the brush. This will create a contoured ombre effect, an ombre effect that will make it look like I contoured the area when I really just went through the area and swept. And then, okay. And that's for under the chin. I don't care. And going to get this area behind here again. I tend to hold my brushes very close to the where the ferrule meets the hair. Bad habit. But if you can, this will give you slightly lighter application and a little more finesse. I'm going to take the product that's left over in the brush here, kind of brush it through the eye area again. Give it some definition, and this is way too big to take down the nose, the side of the nose, so I'm going to skip that. I mean, I could if I wanted to, because when you tan across the face. But I'm going to be putting other products in that area later. So no need for that. If you're in a hurry though, yes, this would work. Take a finger, stick it there, run it down through. That's the reason why I keep using this, even though it's rather old and some people might tell me to throw it away. It's just really good and blends really, really well. Okay. I'm going to be using the Clinique Cheek Pop. This is Black Honey Pop. It's a hard pressed blush, and that's why for this I've chosen a denser packed brush. This is the Koyudo BP022. It's a round, flat topped brush. Surprisingly, they don't have as much of a rounded edge here, but because it's squirrel, it still blends the edges beautifully. If this was goat, I would really like to see more of a rounded corner here. Actually, round out the corner here, like the Chikuhodo T3 does. The Chikuhodo T3 is goat, so because of that, when you apply product with it, it doesn't have a harsh edge. Because this is squirrel and it's so soft and flexible already, it's not a big concern, which is why I don't count that as a detractor to this brush. As you can see, it applies beautifully. I'll take a little bit up my forehead here. Okay, and then going in again. This one's just a joy to use. I think Hakuhodo sells a eye brush C that's similar to this in the Kokutan line. I've not personally used that one, though I have played with it quite a bit, but I haven't used it with product on my face. I've used it on someone else. It's slightly bigger, And I think they have a bigger size of it too. Okay, I should just stop talking about things I'm not sure about. A little more. But I know for sure that this one is found in the Koyudo BP line, the 022, and it is awesome. It's pricey, but it's awesome. Okay. Adjusting. All right. Next up, the Hakuhodo Kokutan Eyeshadow L. I'm pretty sure the L stands for large because this is ass eye brush. Like, what? I'm pretty sure Evgeny has a cheek brush that looks like this. It's similar, slightly different shape and size. This is the one from Hakuhodo, and then their Kokutan line has it in kanji. It's kind of holographic. Not sure if the camera's picking that up. But this one is great as a cheek brush, small cheek brush for sure. If you turn it on the side, it can be a contour brush, and then also a highlight brush, which is what I'm about to use it for. So as far as highlighting go, Squirrel blends wonderfully, picks up soft products without kicking it up, so that's always a plus. And it's slightly almost beveled. You can't really see. It looks like it's completely rounded, but it's not just rounded. It has a slight bit of a bevel to it, which was why I went like this to the product first, like using one side of each bevel for each side, and then blending it out like that. And take a little bit here, here, and widen my forehead a little bit, going up and down in a column so it makes it look bigger or wider, because I tend to have a lot more volume in the lower half of my face, especially when my hair is pulled back. So I'd like to compensate for that hair pulled back and making the top part of my face look smaller by applying highlighter here. Now I'm just painting it in strokes around. Do a little bit just down the nose. Raise the bridge a tiny bit. And then because this is a gold colored one, I'm going to bring the rest of the product down for uniformity. Okay. Okay. Now we're gonna use this, another large eye brush, for contouring my eye socket and nose. This is the Bisyodo ES01. Well, technically it's the BES01. This is a round pine squirrel brush. Has an African rosewood handle and a 23, 24 karat gold plated ferrule, and then it's also got a clear coating to keep that gold plating from coming off. It's a beautiful brush and it works really well. It's a little bit looser, as you can see from that space here when I push the bristles and compact them all the way over. And as you can probably tell by now, I really, really like using large eye brushes for face and sort of larger area work. So taking this down the nose, especially concentrating here. Okay, got a little bit of shape back. And then because it's round, I don't have to worry about blending additionally down this way. Another favorite of mine for contouring the eye and nose with is the Chikuhodo T6. I'll probably pull that out sometime once it gets to the rotation. And then You can use this either directly spot on or windshield wiper, like I'm using it right now. I'm just using a windshield wiper on the flat of its side like this because I just want to cover more area. And then I revert to using the point when I need a little bit more precision, such as down the sides of the nose. And then I'll press and do kind of like a windshield wiper, and I'm blending down the nostril. But otherwise, it's the tip. And I'm kind of digging this into the socket to define that a little more because I decided just now I wanted that look. So roll this around in the socket here, dig it out. And then what this can also do is make your nose look taller and longer up this way. As long as you don't go past where your brow started, like over here, it's fine. Okay. Let me go back in with a little bit more powder on my eyelids. I like to devote a brush to just covering my eyelid base with powder, so there's no color contamination and I don't have to worry the next time I go in and I'm coating my eyes. So I'm going to do this here, and this will help with stuff blending over it that I'm about to put. I'm stopping short of going above where that orbital crease would be because I want that shadow that I applied earlier to stay intact. The brush I just used was the Eihodo S1. This is a Canadian squirrel brush. And then because it has this very nice shaped profile and tip, you can use this sideways, even though it's such a big brush. You can also use it sideways for applying lid color, and use the lid for applying corner color, and it's a little big and clumsy to be using it here, but you can definitely use it here in the outer corners. For inner corners, I really just prefer pencil brushes like the one I'm going to use later, or something like this, the Koyudo BPO36. So totally unnecessary step for some people. I like to do it because I tend to get oily right here where the crease is and below. And get oily fast. Next up, I'm going to use this color and then apply it with this Chiuhodo filbert brush. This is the 10. I'm not sure if they discontinued it. It's been out of stock forever, which means it's probably never coming back. Oh well. But it's okay because I've been collecting a ton of other Kolinsky filbert brushes. Trying to look for the best similar one. I found a couple that have come close. One of them I might say is actually better, but none of them are the same as this. Mostly because this is a Kolinsky Weasel mix, and all the other ones I've collected are straight Kolinsky. I have a Fitch one. I don't like that one. That, if I ever make a regrets video, that's going in there. Okay. I'm just using the edge of this to deposit more and define the shape a little bit. The leftover on the brush is slowly shading it in, as you can see. And the reason why I'm not doing it this way is because if I do it this way, most of the color gets up here. I don't want the color up here. I want it where I want it. So I start below where I want it, and then I move it into the areas as I blend in. And actually I went a little too high there. So I'll take some of it off. Play a little more. And I barely have anything on the brush, but I did kind of smush it in real good. Like if this was the eyeshadow, I smushed it in like this 1 or 2 times. So there's a lot of product trapped in the bristles of the brush. I'm gonna do a little bit more. So this is how I load this up, kind of like vibrato. Now pat. I'm patting as close to the lash line as I can get it first, and then moving it up. That tends to be my favorite technique with filbert brushes, especially Kolinsky ones. Well, Kolinsky or Weasel. Kolinsky's just better though, trust me. You do have to be a little bit careful because I think the US Fish and Wildlife has a ban on it, which is why I think the Cinema Secrets filbert brushes were discontinued. And then Hakuhodo no longer carries weasel brushes because they might get flagged as Kolinsky and sent back. It's kind of like the whole foie gras thing in California. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not, but companies just prefer to not risk it at all. Okay. And then because it has such a nice tip, I'm going to take it and run it under the eye as I would a pencil brush. Bring the color all the way to where the iris is, and then stop there. Okay. I'm going to take my Q-tip here, do a quick erase blend. You can actually, whoops. Okay. You're a goner. We're going to use another brush for this. Okay, because I dropped that on the ground, we're going to use this for fixing this eye. This is the Eihodo S1 again. So this one, I'm dipping it this way. And then rolling on the back of my hand a little bit to distribute the product. And now I'm going to use it like so. Start down, deposit most of the color first, and then drag the remainder of it up. And the reason why I like Canadian Squirrel is because it's so easy to handle. I'm going to actually take this brush, tone this down. There is no shame in fixing mistakes. I'm doing it live. Okay. I've spent so much time on my dark base because it makes everything that goes on top of it make more sense. And using it to blend, using that tip there to move product around. And voila, even though it's such a large brush, it's fantastic. And then this is one of those, oops, I made a bad mistake brushes that you can use because the Canadian Squirrel is springy. You can use it to kind of erase blend like I did with the Q-tip earlier. I just didn't want to contaminate this brush, but I ended up dropping the brush, so I had to quickly resort to another one. So I'll probably do a video on Chiuhodo 10 dupes sometime, but that might be a while coming. Okay. And because I dropped that, I'm actually going to use this again for the brighter lid color. I am going to use this sort of satiny taupe pink, some kind of shade, some sort of nude pinky shade. I've been really into pink recently. But anyhow, it doesn't really go on pink, it just goes on as a shimmer wash. And I'm keeping this here. And if you have a smaller lid, of course, you can just use just the top half of the brush to apply it. And I'm taking this shimmery lighter shade right up to the contour in the socket to make it stand out and a little bit sharper. Not contrast creates more dimension. Tone of it to the rest of my face more. So I'm going to take this brush into my blush. Okay. Just patting it on, changing the tone. Hi, Ski Culture. Diffusing highlighter. Define diffusing highlighter. Like you apply too much highlighter, or you want to apply highlighter in more of a wash. I'm not sure what you mean by diffusing highlighter because, like the brush I used earlier, the Koyudo BP022. Where are you? Something like this brush could be used for diffusing highlighter. Like say this was applied really strongly, the squirrel blush would blend and sort of wipe it away at the same time. If you want to apply diffused highlighter, something fluffy like this would do. If you used a brush that was like the fluffy side of this angled brush, I don't have one to show you right now, but you see how this one's like kind of very loose? That one you can definitely apply diffused highlighter with. So it's more of like a glow on your cheeks. So that's my answer for that. Diffusing highlighter, a denser squirrel brush like this. Denser squirrel brush like this is Hakuhodo Kokutan one. This would also be able to really blend out and diffuse highlighter. But as far as diffuse highlighter goes, like if you use a loose round blush brush, that typically works. Something like the the RC2 or the RCC2 by Koyudo, and then I have a couple Tansedo ones that I've really been liking. I can't remember the name of them. And then of course there's Temptalia's favorite, which is the Chikuhodo Z-4, and that one is kind of like its candle-shaped point. So you have the point that you can use for really blending highlighter all over the place, and because it's round, it has a lot of volume and a lot of body to it, so it'll blend out really well. Okay. Did that answer your question? I hope it did. Someone needs to stop me from rambling sometimes. I'll take a little bit of a darker color here. No, here. And I'm going to use this Hakuhodo B33. This one's made of horsehair. Comes to a little bit of a point. Nothing too drastic. And then this is one of their more medium-sized pencil brushes. I have some much finer ones, but for what I intend to do with this will do. Once again, I'm rolling in a product. And because it's horse and it'll be super strong, I'm going to take it on the back of my hand, see how much there is. And then what rolling does, I was thinking about why I did it over the last week, is it kind of pushes product into the rest of the bristle. So it kind of has this reservoir that holds color. And then I don't have to keep going back into the pan to grab more, because every time I go into the pan, it'll pick up a lot more color. And then I end up with the risk of applying it unevenly or ending up with too much or too dark of an area. Just doing the outer corner, grabbing some here. And I'm kind of almost sketching it on. Like when you sketch, you start with a very light line, and then when you keep going over the area, it gets darker. And then once you're done with that area, you move outside and it kind of shades and then creates a different shape. This is what I do when I'm doing this pulling motion with brushes and going sideways rather than, or going parallel with this motion rather than going perpendicular. I prefer to shade with the side of the brush. I'm actually going to go in, grab more product. Roll, 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 roll. And then switching grips on my brushes helps me because I'm doing this motion. I'm doing this motion. It's like brushing my teeth, except I'm applying eyeshadow on my eyes. So one of the few times I do turn my brush perpendicular to apply product is when I'm doing it to the lower lash line. And then as far as this brush goes, it is hoarse. It's not the softest, but it's tolerable, I find, for most people. Chikuhodo has a pencil brush, the Z-10, that is slightly more tapered. Of course, it's squirrel, so it flexes more, but it does about the same job as this. So if the horse Hakuhodo B533 is not soft enough for you, the Chikuhodo Z10 is a great option. Probably show that later. Well, I mean, I definitely will show it later, but I might show it next week. So this will be kind of a series that you can watch individually by yourself, or individually by itself, but they will kind of build on each other. Okay. It looks uneven because the light's coming in from an angle again, but as far as I can tell, looking at it this way, it is even. I'm gonna go in with a slightly lighter shimmery shade because I want a little bit more light here. So remember how I said earlier that this brush isn't the greatest for the inner corner? I'm going to use it for the inner corner because that was what this brush was originally supposed to do because of that point, but dropped it, not using it on my face again. We're going to go into this color. I'm just loading it up on the tip. And looking down. I'm bringing this across. And because this is squirrel, even though Canadian squirrel is firmer and has more flick pushback to it, it's still super soft. So running this along the waterline or near it is completely comfortable. Okay, so that is my eye and face makeup. I will do eyebrows today because I have a little bit of a stronger eye on. Let's see, where is my product? And I just use this drawing eyebrow by Etude House. This is gray because my brows are quite dark. However, I use gray because what I do with this is not so much draw hairs on as much as I kind of use the gray to imitate shadows, such as if there was hair there, this is what it would look like. So I have a little bit of an area here and up here. So I like to brush my brows up first because this is a shape I like them to be in. So this is how I prefer my brow shape to be, and then now I go in and I actually go backwards through there. And then so this is the outline of where I want it to end. And then I blend it in with the spoolie in these parallel motions. A little bit here. And then because I pulled this part of my eye out, and extend my brow a little bit. If I did very neutral eye makeup, I normally don't do eyebrows. But you know how also like sometimes you go through cycles like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of eyebrow hair and I have a lot of eyelash, and then sometimes like, wow, I look like a bald eagle. This is one of those times where I look like a bald eagle. Filling here, doing the same thing. This time I'm just doing it all in one fell swoop and then blending. I like to blend backwards. And what I'm just doing here is not blending, I'm just using the spoolie to push hairs where I want them to be. And this one is not behaving. It's okay. Okay. Where'd my caps go? 1, 2. I'm gonna take this one. It's a very dense spoolie and just smudge this out some more. Because I don't like having that angle there that strong. Why? Because I don't like it. It's that simple. Okay. So I have a little bald spot showing in the camera there. Don't see it here. So I'm just gonna chalk that up to the light. Everything's bad lighting. It's not my fault. I'm not bad at makeup. It's bad lighting. But in actuality, it is. Checking everything here. Okay. And then the last brush I have is the lash comb. And this is if I apply my mascara super clumpy. And I really need to comb it out. So go ahead, call the exorcist. It's mascara time. I figured out how I'm going to do this. Okay. Looking down. This is the DHC Double Protection Mascara. It's a tubing mascara, which I really love because it extends my lashes just enough so that I look like I have lashes, but it doesn't look too dramatic. It's a very, very good everyday mascara. And especially if you don't wear any very tenacious products, this washes off with warm water just like any tubing mascara. Actually, I shouldn't say that because apparently the Heron make tubing advanced film mascara is supposed to be a tubing mascara. That one requires some heavy duty makeup remover. Just keep going over this area because I keep thinking it'll give me more lashes or hoping it'll give me more lashes. Like I said, I'm in the low hair growth stage of the cycle. And I'm just doing this, separating it out so that the lashes fan out more. If you got really close, it would look scary, but I promise you, after you've done this a couple times, as long as there's no children running around behind you or any bad roommates that would prank scare you, using these lash combs are great. We're going to do the other eye. Get the hair from the head out of my face because that doesn't need mascara. I kind of like to roll the brush as I sweep it up because that rolling helps separate it some more. It is a spiral. The brush bristles are arranged in a spiral, just like most any spoolie. This little guy here. Okay. So I have one big clump here. I'm going to run the brush comb through it and get rid of it. Starting with the hairs, or starting at the base of the hair. Pull it this way, push it that way. Pull these guys from over here so they overlap with the guys over in the corner. And ta-da! Gone. Now I have a nice fringe fan. And I'm going to push it and go for a second coat on this eye because the eyes like to switch which one has more or less hair. So this one has less hair. So second coat is not going to hurt it. Okay. Yeah, eyelash combs are seriously underrated. Which was funny because the first time I showed it last week, I had no clumps to speak of, so I couldn't show it being used. And of course, when you do a second coat of mascara, sometimes you get like little like balls of stuff. That's what I was just doing with this. I should have explained it before I went back in here, but I was removing little balls of extra mascara. And that way, they don't fall on my face later. So, I might actually grab a lip color and show you how I use this with lip product. So again, this is the Koyudo BP036. I said I could use it for eye, for spot concealer, which was how I used it in this video, and for applying lip product like a lip brush. Grab a cream lipstick and a towel to clean this off, and I'll be right back. I'm not feeling too feisty today, so of course I'm going to use a dark red. This is Bruise by Urban Decay. And then this, just drag it. Usually for this you want to keep the bullet down lower, but I don't know if extending it out extending it out further lets you see the color. But because if you extend it out all the way and you like to use a lip brush to like dab at it, you might break the bullet. I've done that a couple times. So keep it retracted so when you push at it, it pushes against the edge of the inside of the barrel and you don't end up having to depot your lipstick. Pro tip from experience. They're expensive lipstick too. Okay, so have a little bit of a towel here. So load it up with lipstick. I'm going to take this, stay, compress it, and now I have a point. And then outline first. And that's actually how I do my Cupid's bow. I kind of want to gum in. And connect the lines. This acts very much like a calligraphy brush when it's loaded up with cream product. I know I said dark red, but showing up on the camera is more of a berry. And even though it's a dark red, because the nature of when you use a lip brush, it will go on as more of a lighter stain. Now I'm just gumming it to really get into the crevices. And that's how I use this brush for lip product. Depending on the formula, like if you have, say, what is it? The lipstick queen. It's like the candy apple red one. It's called Eden or something like that. It's like candy apple red, has slight silver shimmers. That one has for the texture, has a little bit of a thinner formula, so it won't make the brush form a very fine point like this. But most lipsticks, you'll be able to get a nice controllable shape with this. That's the great part about Kolinsky. And grab a little more color. And using a lip brush is how I recommend doing red lipstick. Rarely do I do it from the bullet, or I'll do it with a lip liner first, like a lip pencil liner, and then go in with a bullet. And why I keep going over these areas now is just because I want to get the shading right. It's like, because I applied more product, this part is darker. So I want to get it to just 1 or 2 shades darker than the rest of the lip. Okay, and that is all the makeup I am applying today. So to answer your question, the Koyudo BP brushes. The BP series is Koyudo's high-end line. Um, they aren't super luxurious feeling compared to, say, the Hakuhodo Kokutan or the Hakuhodo S series. Don't have it here. Yeah, these tend to be lighter weight wood. Like, they definitely don't have the balance that a very that the higher end Hakuhodo brushes have. These, if I try to hold them, it'll be there. So lots of hair, light handle. This is what happens. As far as holding it goes, it doesn't really bother me. Something lighter like an eye brush, the balance point will be just right. Like for the Hakuhodo red handles, they actually do weight it to compensate for the length of the brush and how big the head is. As far as all the other brushes, because you asked that question, I'll go through the brushes and answer. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Okay, here you are. So, Clarisonic. I mean, there's one way to hold this. It's pretty well weighted. So, Clarisonic foundation brush. Turn it on. You got a 1 minute timer. It doesn't beep at you, so you're just gonna time yourself and move around your face as needed. And then if you don't finish blending, just do another cycle. And something I didn't discuss with the Clarisonic brushes, you actually can use it to apply blush. You just have to do it very carefully. If you have the Chanel cream bronzer, that brush works really well for that stuff. And then this is the Tanseido EQ28, the powder brush I used. Great bronzer brush. Okay, this one, balance point. These handles, like, no one makes handles as nice as Hakuhodo's high-end line overall, except the Bisyodo, which I'll get to in a second. So this, but I do really like this slightly metallic satiny blue of the Tanseido handle. Yeah, the handles on the BP line are wood. They're just a very light type of wood. And then same thing actually with the Chikuhodo T Takumi series. The handles are relatively light compared to the rest of the brush. This is the balance point for it. I think this is bamboo. Like when you translate the character for Takumi, it translates to bamboo. So that might be what they use for the handle. Don't quote me on that. Metal ferrule painted in matte black to match the rest of the brush. I love the look of it. Like black, red, and white is just one of my favorite color combinations. So that's the brush that I use for bronze touring. Koyudo Fupa 13. Again, has that slightly odd shape to it, but allows you to fit into crevices really well. This one, what I like about these, they have a flat, completely flat base, so you can just stand them up, and you don't even have to watch how you put them in. You just stick them down, and they'll stay. Sorry for shaking the camera. That was goat hair. And then Koyudo BP022. I spent enough time raving about this. Squirrel hair, gray squirrel. Hakuhodo Kokutan Eyeshadow Eye Brush Large, Eye Brush L. One of those combinations. I'll find it and put in the description. Blue squirrel for this guy. The really nice handle, the African rosewood. It's got a shiny lacquer on it, and then the logo in gold. The only thing that would make this brush better is if they printed the name on it. But hey, we can't have everything. So this would be Bisyodo's equivalent of the S series. Really nice handle, really nice ferrule with gold plate and a clear coating. And then this is pine squirrel. There, you can feel a little bit of a difference with it compared to Canadian squirrel, but just barely. So it's a really good investment if you don't want to spring the extra. I think it's almost like a 15-20% difference for Canadian squirrel from Hakuhodo. Pine squirrel brushes, Hakuhodo's pine squirrel brushes compared to their Canadian squirrel brushes are pretty comparable. Which brush do you have, Shirley? I have the Bisyodo foundation brush as well. That will make an appearance sometime. And then I think I've showed you this enough times in this video. The Koyudo BP036. And I've showed you this one enough. This is the Eihodo S1 Canadian Squirrel. Also raved about how much I love this brush. There's a similar brush from Hakuhodo. Can't remember it right now. I think it's the GS1. It has a slightly different profile and shape, but it's essentially the same function. Well, actually, it's thicker, so maybe I'll cover that in the next video. But either way, I collect Kolinsky brushes and Canadian squirrel brushes, so I have a lot of them. Speaking of Kolinsky brushes, this is a Shu Uemura 10 Filbert. Pretty sure this is discontinued, so I have a lot of dupes for these. Nothing's exactly the same. This is the one that I was using for the lid and would have used for under the eye too because that is a nice fine point there. But I dropped it, so it's not going back on my face until it's washed. And then the sort of medium-sized pencil brush from Hakuhodo, the B533. And then this one is one of the older brushes, so it doesn't have the printing on them. By now, I think they all have their name lasered on. It does eventually rub off, but if you're not too rough with it, the name should stay for a long time. I mean, this is one of their old brushes, and name's still pretty intact, and I love using my pencil brushes. And then lash comb, Q-tip gotta work out. This side's still fine to use. And that is all. So I think I will wrap this up here because I don't really have anything more to cover. And I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful and got some ideas for how to use your brushes. I'll see you next time. Bye. Okay. And